We remember the experiences that move us, the moments that make us feel connected, seen, and a part of something larger than ourselves. Our minds catalog experiences in a story-like format, gathering together all of the sensory information like sight and sense and hearing, adding context and deep meaning. Today, I want to explore how emotionally resonant experiences and those that are truly engaging are the ones that our mind builds memories around. These become part of our story. I also want to show you how you can take advantage of a design approach that consistently creates those memories for customers in any market. Early in my career at Walt Disney Imagineering, I had an experience that bypassed the logical experience designer centers in my brain and created an emotional moment of awe. It was one fall evening in Disneyland in California. Now, this park is pretty small by comparison. I was there with a group of colleagues, and we were going from meeting to meeting. And the best way to do this was to cut through the park. So we did this, and as we were pushing through the crowd in a place called Town Square, we got to just the center where Main Street was, and by chance, all the lights went down. The music came up, got loud, artificial snow machines went on, pyrotechnics. And even though I knew exactly how everything was done, it just struck me emotionally, and it built a lifelong anchor memory in me. Tonight, throughout this audience, I'd like you to scan your own lives for an anchor memory like this, one that's built on an experience. Perhaps it was a perfect vacation day. Maybe it was the moment you chose your wedding ring. Maybe it was your child's first steps. As you think about that moment, what you realize is it's more than the activity itself. It's who you were in that moment, the feeling that you had, the atmosphere around you, the people that were around you. It's the story that you still tell about it. Those memories form our personal stories, but they also represent recognizable patterns that we can intentionally design for. Now, my fascination with narrative and world building began in 1977. Now, if you're doing the math, you realize that I was 10 years old, and I probably couldn't have described it that way. But this was the year that the film Star Wars premiered, and I must have seen that movie a dozen times. And I wanted to be Han Solo flying the Millennium Falcon. That was my dream. It was amazing. This experience sparked a career that led from film and television to what we call themed experience design. Now, this was a transition from telling stories in a two-dimensional medium into a three-dimensional medium, which was physical placemaking. These are themed experience environments, but the true difference is that the people, the audience who visits there, they co-create their own stories while they're in that environment. This is where I believe true immersion lives, at the intersection of reality and imagination, where storytelling is at the heart. Over the years and through many projects and applications, what I learned can become a method that anyone can use. From destination resorts to theme parks and attractions, urban retail, dining districts all over the world, even cruise ships, I applied the same principles to each one of these environments for a global audience. Then 2020 happened, and it was a true inflection point in my life and career. After 23 years leading creative teams at Imagineering, and like so many others around the world that was affected by the pandemic, I was laid off from my dream job. That shock catalyzed a complete renaissance in my thinking about story narrative, design, and the experience economy. In fact, it got me very focused on what my role in that world should be. This was the birthplace of my practice, narrative experience design. This process is an experience-centric method with the goal to connect brands and customers in lasting ways. It starts with the brand's why. This is their core meaning, why they exist, their DNA. And thanks to Simon Sinek for describing this so well in his book, Start with Why. The next step is that we integrate a deep understanding of that brand's customers. Finally, we weave in their commercial and business objectives. Next, we take the details of those three areas and we tailor make an emotionally resonant experience for each of the brand's unique touch points, whether digital, physical, or human. Now, the amazing thing is adopting this approach delivers true consistency at an enterprise level for organizations. Brands actually gain confidence in the experiences that their customers are having with them because they know those experiences have been strategically designed for them. Internally, this process aligns cross-functional teams with intent and criteria. Externally, it improves perception of the customer and it affects positively repeat behavior. Because each interaction has been specifically designed to evoke very specific feelings at the right moment. This is called durable differentiation. Customers don't just buy, they return as engaged audiences to re-enter a story narrative that feels personal to them. Here's how the cycle works. We start by planting a narrative seed. Here we define a concise, resonant story kernel using language that's clear enough to guide decisions across partnerships and disciplines. The story kernel frames the promise and the point of view. And in fact, it gives guidance for the transformation that you want to create for your audience. The next step is cultivating engagement, which grows when two processes work together. The first is co-creation. Here we invite people to personalize and influence parts of the story through interactivity, live engagement, and performance rituals. Amazingly, participation turns observers into contributors, and contributors remember the stories that they help to tell. The next step is consistency. We express this branded narrative across socials and websites, across environments and signage, against products and packaging, training and service manuals. Consistency across channels matches how human memory catalogs experiences as organized, meaningful engagements. So customer recall and trust grows. The final step here is that all of this blooms into transformation. When the planting and the cultivating are done well, people become more than just customers. They become an engaged audience that spread the narrative through their own voices. Then they return again and again. That original story kernel that we started with earns a premium perception in the minds of your customers without relying solely on just promotion. Building in shareable moments extends the reach organically. Narrative experience design treats this cycle as living and iterative. So we operate, measure, learn, and adjust the experiences over time. That way, it remains relevant to audiences even when their preferences evolve. Let's return to the anchor memory that we recalled earlier. Within the context of this framework, I hope that you start to see a pattern. It starts with the seed, which was the promise that you sensed in your memory. It continues with cultivation, which were the touch points that kept you engaged. And finally, it blooms into the transformation. And that was the moment that changed how you thought or decided. Narrative experience design provides teams the tools to create and build these connections intentionally, rather than just hoping that they happen naturally. Considering the global economy and the fact that experiences are the new competitive currency, the benefits to this approach should seem obvious. Rather than share another branded commercial example that illustrates even more benefits, I'd really like to pivot our focus on how this cycle can actually change the way that we show up for each other. The same principles that align and create global destinations, they actually shape the way that we show up for one another. They change and bind us together in new and lasting ways. Families, teams, neighborhoods, classrooms. We can explore ways together on how to plant a story seed of purpose, then design small touch points to keep that purpose felt rather than just said. We can invite others to co-create with us on that journey, and then here's the best part. We get to define the bloom, which is choosing a human outcome that we should measure. Now, of course, that measurement isn't brand growth or revenue. It's trust, belonging, and momentum. This is where you apply narrative experience design, not just at a brand scale, but at human scale. Intentional stories lived consistently that can transform all of us. And with this framework in place, we can close where we began. Why certain moments stay with us, and how a lived narrative can turn customers and communities into engaged audiences. Remember, narrative experience design plants story seeds. It cultivates engagement, and it blooms into advocacy. And a very important point, it resows the seeds for the future as well. As TEDxVicenza marks 10 years of blooming ideas, consider this. Each one of us holds the power to plant a story. The challenge that I have for each of you is actually a question. What story experience will you plant tomorrow?